Don't try to sneak into your room like that. I know what you've got behind your back. Records. More new records.
Hey there. Let's do an unboxing of the new Beatles 4 LP set. All right. So this is the White Album remixed by Giles Martin. It's available on 2 different versions. There's a 2 LP set where you just get the original record remixed by Mr. Martin, or you can buy the 4 LP set. And in all honesty, you got to get the 4 LP set, and I'll explain that as we go. So it's in a box, obviously. It's a very basic box. You have 4 pictures on the front, nicely reproduced, a nice shiny jacket. Inside, some places have advertised this as coming with a stapled together 12 by 12 booklet, but it doesn't. I'm not sure where that information came from. What you get inside in terms of information is a one sheet, a cardboard one sheet like this. Not like this, it is this. So this is, you get 4 different pictures of the Beatles, and then on the inside you get an essay with some other pictures. And there's a short little essay by Paul called We the Beatles. And the point he's trying to make, and the point of this whole exercise really, is to explain to people who thought otherwise that this is a Beatles album. It's not 4 individuals in the studio working separately, although there was some of that. But for the most part, this was a cooperative effort, and that's what Paul's point was here. And then there's an introduction by Giles Martin about his father's experience working on this record. And as some of you know, his father kind of left and went on vacation in July because the process by which the Beatles recorded this record was very different than it used to be before they asserted their independence. So instead of having a rehearsal run through and a decision on how to produce it and then an execution of the production, this was a situation where they block booked time in the studio and played around till they got and did take after take after take, live takes with the vocals, and then overdubs later, adding other parts. It was never done that way. And George Martin kind of didn't like that. He didn't like the Beatles asserting their independence over him, so he went on vacation. And of course, Ringo left at some point during this. And all this is explained if you don't know it already. And then there's an essay here by Kevin Howlett, who is a Beatle expert, a very good one. And then on the back, he writes about the Esher Demos, and many of you know about the Esher Demos, and some of you don't know about the Esher Demos. So, the Esher Demos were recordings made at George Harrison's bungalow. George Harrison had a nice 4-track Ampex tape recorder and good microphones, and they went there, Lennon and McCartney and George, and they ran through all the songs that they had written for this album, many of which were written in India. And these songs and these performances have come out at various times on bootlegs. But here, for the first time, remixed by Giles Martin from the 4-track, you have an extremely superb sounding record, 2-record set, where you're in the room with them when they recorded it. It's quite exciting. And that's why I suggest, if you're going to spend the money on this remix, that you get the 4 LP set and get the Esher Demos, because they're absolutely fantastic. So, I've taken these things out of the jackets. You do get the 4 pictures of the Beatles as you got on the original. And you get the poster, a nice heavy stock poster. And this is the original British poster. So if you find the shot of Paul's legs spread, you'll see pubic hair. You don't see that on the American, and you'll see John and Yoko having their genitalia, which you won't see on the American one because Capitol Records decided in the 60s that the kiddies shouldn't see such things, even though they'd look down and see the same things, but they were removed. So they're back here if you had the American version. And also, the American version of the record was far, far inferior to the original British. Now, here is the White Album. So the first thing you'll note is that it's not authentic to the original British in that it's not a fold-over cover. It's not a top loader. The original British opened up on top, and I'll show you that in a minute. And while it's embossed the Beatles, which is nice, it's not numbered like the originals were, but that's the only thing that's not authentic. Otherwise, these records pressed at optimal on the 4-record set were absolutely perfect. Quiet, flat, and the sound was incredible. You can read the full review of this box on analogplanet.com. It's up there now, okay? So that's the package and packaging for the actual remixed album. And then the second album contains, it's a double record containing the Esher Demos. And what they've done is they've assembled the Esher Demos to mirror the original release. So it's Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Obla-Dee, Obla-Da, Wild Honey Pie, Continued Story of Bungalow Bill, While My Heart Gently, blah, 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 etc., 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 until you get to the songs that were not done in the Esher Demos. And they added here other songs that were in the Esher Demos that were not on the actual White Album, including Sour Milk Sea, which was done, they handed that to Jackie Lomax for his Apple debut. Also Junk, which ended up on Paul McCartney's first solo record. Child of Nature, Circles, Mean Mr. Mustard, and Polythene Pam, we all know where they went. Not Guilty, which didn't end up on any album. And What's the New Mary Jane, which also didn't end up on any album, but ended up in someone's lungs. Anyway, that's the box. Okay? Now let me just show you, in case you've never seen one. Here is an original UK pressing that I bought brand new. I bought it brand new because I'm old. I bought it brand new in 1968. Actually, the story of how I got this record is in the review. I had driven down to the docks in Manhattan on the west side to pick up 2 cases of these records that were ordered by the owner of the record store that I worked at in Ithaca, New York, because he heard that the British one was coming out before the American one. And when I drove back to Ithaca, in freezing weather, before climate change, it was freezing in November. The young people were lined up around the block waiting because they heard the rumor that these records were appearing. And I pulled up in this guy's Volvo P1800, and I had opened the box, and I looked out the window and I showed them one, and the crowd went crazy. And that's what this is. So it's a top loader, which means it opens on top, and it comes with the same booklet and the same records. So, yes, I'm leaving this because, I'm not doing this over again. It comes with the same records, obviously. It comes in the original one had the black inner sleeves, and it has the 4 pictures and the poster. And that was the original British pressing. And I'll tell you this, I have played this record since 1968. I don't know how many times, hundreds of times probably. It still sounds fantastic. It didn't wear out. The top end is all there. It's not noisy, and it still sounds just about as it did when it was new, except my system is much better, so it sounds much better. Okay. Now, in addition to that version, you can buy the 2 LPs that constitute the original album remixed by Giles, and that was pressed at QRP in Salina, Kansas. You can buy that, but I really recommend getting the 4 LPs and getting the Esher Demos because they're magical. There's also a 3 CD set that gives you the Esher Demos and the original record, and then there's this absolutely deluxe box set here in a slipcase. There is the slipcase, and the slipcase is kind of cool because, as you can see, it has a transparent version of the 4 pictures in black and white, and all of the song titles are on the back there. And there's also credits. Some credits, you won't be able to read that. All right, now, the highlight of this is this hard-covered book. Here are the discs. So the discs, you get the same CDs that are in the 3 CD set, and you get additional CDs with outtakes and a studio blurb, and just, if you really want to know everything and have everything that was just about ever recorded for this record, you get that. Plus there's a Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray has some interesting features. It has everything at 96K 24-bit, which is higher resolution and sounds better than CDs, no matter what some imbeciles on the internet tell you that you can't hear the difference. You'd hear the difference. I don't care what you play it on, you'd hear it. So it's got the 9624 version of the Esher Demos, the 9624 version of the remix, and it also has a new transfer of the mono mix, which everybody should own. The mono mix. The mono mix is the one that the Beatles were more interested in because at that point in time, most of the kids who were buying these records had mono turntables. This was the first album in America that did not come out in mono. It was only in mono in the UK. It's worth having. So, I mean, do you want to spend the money in this? I can't answer that question. Only you can. But what I also want to show you is there's the book. This book is it's got song by song analysis with pictures and details, and there's pictures of the tapes. I mean, you know, it depends on how important this record is to you. And it ends with a John Lennon cartoon. So, and then also in here is there's the poster and the pictures are in a little envelope inside. So that's this version, and it's really deluxe and delightful, as Brian Ferry would say. And then there's a story about this crazy guy. Well, he's not crazy. We're all crazy. But this is a guy that collects white albums. He's got a ton of white albums. And his name is Rutherford Chang. There's a story about him in there. There's really, really nice photos in here. You know, if you're a Beatles fan, you want to ask Santa Claus to get this for you for Christmas or buy it yourself, because it's really deluxe. So ideally, you'd want to have this and the 4 LP set. I know you're spending a lot of money on this, but this stuff is not going to be in print forever. I keep telling people this. And you should get it while you can if you got the money. If you don't have the money, sell something to get it. This is not going to be around forever. So I highly recommend it. It's really fun pouring through all the details that are in here. There's so many nice pictures in here. And I'm not shilling for the label. You may think I'm shilling for the label. But, you know, it's funny because when Classic Records did the Led Zeppelin catalog over 20 years ago now, and it was $30 a record, and people were saying, I'm not spending $30 for a record. It's ridiculous. Those records are out of print. If you want those records now, $300. Okay? And those records sound fantastic, and certainly much better than Jimmy Page's digital remasters a couple of years ago. Those are terrible. The original artists should really not be involved in reissuing their records, in my opinion. Anyway, so that's the unboxing. Highly recommended here, highly recommended there, and it should be a very nice Beatles Christmas.